participants are joining us. Okay. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining today's session about building a winning team. So we'll start the session for today. I hope you all can hear me clearly. Today's session is part of the challenge that is organized by CAREC, the Central Asian Regional Economic Cooperation, an initiative of the Asian Development Bank. It is supported by the Republic of Korea, eAsia and Knowledge Partnership Fund, EAKPF. CAREC is a partnership of 11 countries. This competition for CAREC University students have been launched as part of the implementation of the CAREC Digital Strategy 2030. The competition is a challenge program to encourage collaboration and engagement between university students in the region to improve the startup ecosystem. The program is designed to promote entrepreneurship and innovative thinking as students develop startup ideas in a region-wide university-level competition. So I hope we have some great things for you to learn today. We will take a group photo today around in 15 minutes time. So Zeus will just request you guys to turn on your cameras and we take a photo. And without further ado, I'll pass to Irakli to conduct the session. Thank you very much for joining, everyone.
Thank you very much, Navid. And I'd like to, first of all, welcome all the participants for our second session and training that we invited our great friends and trainers from the Silicon Valley. Before we will start with the very interesting process and training, which includes also practical elements, I would like to shortly provide you information about the competition, about this initiative, which have been created by the ADB CAREC under the CAREC program. And I have several slides and would like to shortly provide you some details about the program. We have a free main, can you see my screen? Yeah, we have a three main categories in our competition. And the main idea and structure of the competition is to help you to develop the particular skills and also to get the knowledge about how to transform the problem into the solution, and by your creativity, by the group working and collaboration, to develop new innovative solution to solve the challenges in health tech, mobile tech, and clean tech directions. We're offering you free driving questions, and under these free driving questions, you should, together with your team, under the several period of time, develop the innovative solution. All elements of the competition is oriented on a development of your special abilities, for example, information analysis abilities, the abilities to work together to develop the innovative solution during the several type of brainstorming, learn how to work with your potential customers, and finally develop innovative solution. You also will be able to prepare for the demo day and finally present your solution on for the jury and get the prizes which we have for the competition. For the first prize, we have 5,000 USD. Second prize is 2,000, and the third is 1,000 USD. We have also special category for the most innovative projects. Finally, as now it already mentioned, it's the benefits for the participation in this competition is that the entrepreneurship is skills which you have developed in a practical environment, and as much you are involved in such kind of practical processes, you are helping yourself to become better entrepreneur in the future. It's also helping universities to create environment for the developing of entrepreneurial skills and cross-cultural and the cooperation between different faculties and students from different faculties. And it might be used by the universities in the future for the entrepreneurial skills development in the educational institution. Yeah, it's shortly about the competition. The registration is going till 1st of February. And if you are not registered yet, please use the registration forms, and we'll share additional in the chat the registration forms and the link for the registration page. And after from the February of 2nd, we are starting active trainings, mentorship sessions, and also interesting tasks for you to prepare your final innovative solution. It's shortly about the competition, and now I would like to give the floor to our trainers from the Silicon Valley, Mr. Jeff Wallace and Carl Deutsch, to present very interesting training which will help you to form the team and to start thinking about that, how the innovative teams work. Please, Jeff, Carl, I'm stopping the sharing the information, and we'll also provide the link for the registration and the page in the chat. Thank you.
Hi guys, quickly before they start, I just like to highlight that we have English to Russian translation available. So at the bottom of the Zoom window, you can see that you can change to Russian translation, just for your information. Yes, please. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, thank you guys for having us here today. I'm Jeff. Cal and I will be sharing the discussion today, and we're excited to share with you some ideas on building an innovative team and talking a little bit about innovation in general, and then what it takes to create a successful team to enable your innovations to be successful themselves. A little bit of background on me. I'll do this very quickly, but on the left-hand side of the screen are the companies that I have worked for over the course of my career. I was a serial entrepreneur after starting my career on Wall Street and then working for a large global technology company. And on the right-hand side, for the last 7 or 8 years, full-time, all I do is work with global startup founders like yourselves. And these are various companies and groups around the world that I've been fortunate enough to work with. It's just a small sampling. I've worked with about 1,700 or so startups and groups across about 40 countries over the last 7 or 8 years. And the last thing I'll share is what I call my fun fact on the bottom. I've had the chance during my career to work with both of the Steves from Apple Computer or Apple. I've had a chance back in the late 90s, I worked directly with Steve Jobs. And since the last about 8 years, I've worked with Steve Wozniak on several occasions. So it's been a fun part of my own entrepreneurial journey. With that, I'll ask Cal to introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, like Jeff, I started my career at very large companies like Price Waterhouse, the accounting firm, Wells Fargo Bank, and Visa. And midway through my career, I kind of caught entrepreneur fever and then worked at a series of startups. Most notably was HomeGain, which was a real estate technology company. And like Jeff, the last 7 years or so, I've worked with startups around the world in Asia, Europe, Latin America, and the United States, and am very excited to be here. And with that, well, why don't we just jump right into the program? Our agenda, the first half, Jeff is really going to take us through and just remind us from a personal level, what is innovation within a company and what's the role of the individual with innovation? Then I am going to take a deep dive into what we would call the psychological makeup of an innovator. And it really goes into the mindset, and it goes far, far beyond the skill set that you need to have and just the growth mindset you need to have, for example. And we're going to do an exercise, which should be quite fun. And hopefully with enough time, we'll leave it up with some questions and answers. So without further ado, Jeff, back to you.
Thank you, Cal. So as we're going to talk about innovation, I think it's fair to start with just the basic question, why are we going to talk about innovation? What's the important part about innovation? And for us, we just fundamentally believe that the challenges of our current day and age, or the 21st century, can really only be addressed by harnessing the power of our human creativity and the innovation that spurs from that. So to us, innovation is really the way out of all of the challenges that we as a world experience, whether in business or otherwise. So that's kind of the core fundamental belief, is that innovation is the solution to many of the challenges that we address in society today. Now, going on from there, we're going to talk about, from our perspective, is innovation doing business as usual? We would say it's not doing business as usual. It's not simply doing a project on the enterprise to-do list or in the company to-do list. And it really needs to be treated quite differently than the rest of the core business. In many ways, it also needs to be measured differently as well. Similarly, we don't believe that innovation is merely an invention. Certainly an invention can be innovative, but an invention in and of itself doesn't automatically mean that a market is transformed and that the change brought about by the invention endures over a long period of time. So for us, that's not a qualifier purely for innovation either. And lastly, innovation is not simply setting up an outpost or an office here in Silicon Valley. Sometimes it feels to us that every large company in the world has established some sort of innovation center, maybe a customer demonstration center, a research lab, or an innovation outpost of some sort here in Silicon Valley. And certainly these companies are committing resources, they're committing time and money and people, talent, hoping to leverage the concentrated startup and even academic ecosystems that for many of us here in Silicon Valley define the success that Silicon Valley is. But to be sure, real innovation goes beyond these things, and it's truly about the discovery, the creation, and the spread of something ambitious and game-changing in the marketplace that delivers meaningful positive value. Now, that can be described positive value in numerous ways, but that's the core of what real innovation is to us. So going on from there, we ask, well, how important is innovation? And again, going back to our fundamental belief that it's the solution to the challenges of the 21st century, for us, an organization, much like a startup, If innovation is going to be successful, it has to be the very soul and the very essence of the company. It is a critical thing to be successful in innovation. You must be striving to innovate at the core of who you are as an organization. Now, how do we succeed as companies, as startup founders at the innovation that we aspire to create? And there are basically 4 key areas that companies, when you're pursuing the creation of an innovation culture or the successful innovation of new market opportunities, that are critical. First and foremost are the people and the teams that are formed around innovation. Once you have that formed, the second thing to focus on are the ambitious ideas and the unique insights that that company, those people, and those teams can bring to the market. And innovation is quite hard. It's not a simple recipe that can be followed to success by all companies, by all people. So you need to have resilience and adaptability, and we're going to talk in more detail about each of these. And you also need to be flexible. You've heard the term pivot. Pivot is really about understanding the market conditions and being able to adjust in the midstream and on the fly as you're progressing. And then lastly, we look at what's called the intrapreneurship versus entrepreneurship. And again, we'll talk about the difference between the two of those in a little more detail. So starting with the most important, as we said, people and the teams that they form are the most important part of any successful innovation culture. They're going to be at the center of everything related to that innovation. And you must take into consideration their needs for purpose, for meaning, for latitude and the freedom to do as they need, and the support that has to be provided to these individuals. And when you're staffing a team to create innovation, whether it's a large corporate enterprise innovation team or an innovative startup, you need to keep an eye towards the diversity of skills and experiences that need to be part of those teams, whether it's a good mix of engineering and technical talent, maybe incorporating the business development and marketing so that the innovation can be brought into the market. Basically, all of these things need to be there in order for the enterprise and the innovation itself to be successful. Now, I talked about the importance of the people, and second only to the people, whether you're a startup or again, an innovation team in a large enterprise, is the uniqueness and the ambition, the timing, and the fit of new ideas. Whether it's 2 people in a garage or in a coffee shop or a large global enterprise innovation team, the ability to discover and evaluate and to bring truly market-changing ideas is critical. It's key. And there's some discovering aspects that occur. You need to develop a great kind of a radar or a trusted network for uncovering those ideas and finding ways to engage the people in your ecosystem, whether within or outside the organization, to bring those hidden ideas to the forefront and give everybody else an opportunity to pursue those ideas. Whether you were searching for them in the first place or whether they arrived by happenstance or serendipity or luck, either way, you need to create the environment that allows for that opportunity to happen. And sometimes very rational organizations have idea reconnaissance or idea mining, and it has to be ongoing and intense. There has to be an embracing of the culture around these bringing of ideas. And you also have to understand how to evaluate ideas, whether they seem kind of interesting or provocative on the surface. You have to be able to look at ideas in not just in isolation, but also as a startup, maybe you're an isolated entity and you can bring that idea in isolation. But as a large enterprise, you need to make sure that the ideas that are surfaced fit within the overall strategy and the capabilities of the organization. And while the idea may be compelling on its own, if it doesn't fit into the large companies, the enterprise's broader strategy or the competency, it's not going to fit into the organization, and it probably should not be pursued because it probably won't yield any competitive advantage. You need to make sure that it fits inside the broader strategy of the organization. Now, when it comes to ideas, there might actually be more similarities between innovation centers, enterprise startups, and even regular internet, just consumer startups. But you rarely see an enterprise startup, something coming out of the large enterprise, in a situation of having something that's searching for a problem. People don't create ideas that then go figure out, or solutions that then go figure out what problem does it solve. They go the other way around. And to be certain, in our business today, the pace of change and disruption is so fast that solving problems takes the priority. So you have to solve real problems. So you always have to be creating a solution to an identified problem, not the other way around. And then as it relates to the resilience and the adaptability, this is not just, again, for startups. Enterprises themselves need to have an understanding and a culture of moving fast, learning from failure. Some people will say fail fast. It's okay to try things. If they don't work, learn that as quickly as possible and move on to the next. Some really great companies that are global are very, very good at doing this kind of study of the market, learning and moving quickly. Companies like Netflix or Apple, they move quickly. They create things, they move quickly. If it fails, they accept the failure and they take the lessons from it and they move on. And it's that real-time adapting that's a critical challenge for companies. But if you're able to do that in a masterful way, it can bring tremendous success to your innovation initiatives and ultimately to your company. And if you're a public company, even to your shareholders. And while flexibility sounds kind of simple, just be flexible, it's actually very hard to do. It's very difficult for companies to remain flexible. They have an organization, they have a culture, and being very flexible within that is not an easy thing to accomplish. Some companies have done very, very well at it, but many more do not do as well at it. And it's a delicate balance between deciding whether you stay the course or whether you turn and pivot and try and adapt to some of the new realities that you're confronting. And for a large enterprise, it's having a whole portfolio, a whole group of different initiatives, whereas typically a typical startup will have one thing to focus on. Organizations have many, many things that they're focusing on at the same time. And so understanding how to do that is, again, a very difficult and complex thing within a larger corporate structure. It's much easier within a startup to be able to focus on just the one thing. But in either circumstance, it's the leadership that has to understand how to pursue those initiatives to their rightful end, whether that's success or maybe a failure fast and a pivot to take those lessons and learn how to move forward. And creating collaborative environments that allow for the ideas to be fostered and grown and tried is what's really critical to these organizations. So that resilience, adaptability, and flexibility is critical. And lastly, I spoke about the difference between intrapreneurship, which is where you have within a large organization, a large enterprise, you need to be intrapreneurial, meaning entrepreneurial within the boundaries of the enterprise. And you want your organization, you want your employees to be thinking about new ideas, having passion for pursuing those things. You want to create an environment that's very enjoyable and fun for them. It has to create opportunities and create value, not just for the individuals, but for the organization at whole. And it's difficult, again, to do that because organizations sometimes are a little more rigid. And so that flexibility and adaptability that I spoke about is really critical here. And every risk isn't always going to work inside an organization. So that has to be very understood. And if a large enterprise can't adapt and create that type of culture, it will ultimately create challenges. And sometimes we see people leave large organizations to go create startups because they're compelled to try to pursue things that for one reason or another, they're not able to pursue or to get the support. Remember, I talked about the people in the organization and the teams require that support. If they're unable to get it, ultimately people will leave, and you don't want to have, as a larger company, the loss of good talent to go pursue ideas outside the boundaries of the company. So companies need to be open to supporting these kinds of efforts where they assess that the return is there, where it allows people to expand their careers, expand their creativity, and not focus in all cases on just market share and margins, but keeping the financial things in check while allowing your employees to grow and create new opportunities that might not come about otherwise. And similarly, large enterprises have to adapt that Silicon Valley mindset where failure has to be tolerated, accepted, and even expected. Now, as an example of that, one of the companies that I worked for in the course of my career was a very, very large organization by the name of Cognizant. Cognizant is a large global systems integrator. They work with many, many of the global Fortune 1000 companies. And when I was brought into Cognizant, one of the things they wanted to do was hire an entrepreneur from outside the organization to run start and to run a new division called Cognizant Mobility. And they recognized that their goal was to establish Cognizant as a market leader in mobile development, helping companies around the world figure out how to deploy securely and appropriately the right kinds of solutions for all these mobile devices that were coming into the market. This is about 10 or 11 years back when I was brought in here. And they wanted to leverage all of the vast resources that were already in place inside this big, behemoth of a company. This is a company that had about 250,000 employees at the time. It's even larger now. And their goal was to utilize the best solutions possible to solve clients' needs, clients' challenges, or their requirements. And we wanted ultimately even to be a great channel partner for many of the innovators, the startups, the younger companies that were developing in those years, again, about 10 or 11 years back, at the very cutting edge of mobile technologies. They wanted to be a great channel partner for a lot of those mobile innovators to say, if you have a great solution, we'd like to partner with you and bring it to our Fortune 1000 clients and help you get your solution in their hands. So that's what they were hoping to do. But on the other side, we're going to talk about what happened. What they did was they started to measure our mobility teams with the same KPIs, the key performance indicators. And you can't measure innovative employees by the same tools as you measure kind of traditional service-based employees. And so we were creating efficiency tools, that basically technologies that allowed things to be done much faster. But employees were compensated on how many hours they were putting into something. So they didn't want efficiency tools because efficiency tools made it fewer hours, which harmed their what's called utilization rates. They were not having as much billing hours against client projects. So they weren't able to change the way they measured, and employees resisted these kinds of tools that made them faster and more efficient. And then, unfortunately, because we were using older methods that accommodated the employees but didn't accommodate the use of these new innovative efficiency tools, we started to lose the customer wins. We weren't getting as many customer wins and customer success stories. And so what that led to, unfortunately, was turnover. We started to lose employees. So we started to lose very valuable employees that had lots of great knowledge and great experience working within this large, global organization. And that ultimately then led to even further failures around our partnerships. Many of our partnerships weren't able to get deployed into these client situations because our employees were resisting them. And so many of those channel partnerships that we had put in place started to falter and not work out as well. And ultimately, what happened was that our mobile innovation team was absorbed into a larger corporate initiative around digital transformation. And so this was not a fun experience, but it really was a learning opportunity for me personally, and many others as well, but to see firsthand how a large organization, if they don't adopt some of the principles that I've spoken about in the last several minutes around innovation and what it takes to succeed in innovation, how it can lead to very difficult and challenging results. Now I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about another company here in the United States called USAA. It's a large insurance company, and they have a fundamental belief that at USAA, every single employee is an innovator. This is a company that was founded over now 101 years ago, back in 1922, by military officers who were trying to create an innovative idea. They themselves were unable to get insurance. They had challenges getting insurance, and they decided, well, let's create our own insurance company for military people. So they decided that at that time, based on the fact that they themselves innovated an idea to create this company, that innovation was going to be core to the foundation of this company going forward. Certainly, I don't imagine they thought it would last for over a century and more as an organization. But innovation to them begins as soon as people are hired. So the moment somebody is hired, even in the interview process, they talk about how important innovation is and how their innovation culture is critical to who they are as an organization. And so leadership in the company invests all of the necessary resources to enable and empower these innovation initiatives and these innovation efforts. They put not just the idea there, but they put the money where their mouths are. They put the money toward the organization. And the teams that are created for these innovations, they come from across the entire organization. If you remember back, one of the things I shared several minutes ago was that diversity of the teams, whether it's engineering and technical talent and marketing talent and business development. These guys at USAA, this organization, brings teams together from across the organization, and it prevents it from kind of what's called siloing. It doesn't get caught up in one part of the business, and innovation is then also spread across the entire company as people come into these teams from their different organizations. Ultimately, if they then go back to those organizations, they're able to spread the innovation throughout the entire part of the organization. And interestingly, all of the employees are invited to submit innovative ideas and proposals, and every one of those proposals is vetted and looked through and reviewed by these cross-functional teams, and they're figuring out, are these good ideas or not? And in a given year, they can receive over 10,000 ideas, and over 1,000 of them are actually launched. Some of the most incredible innovations have come from USAA's innovation culture. If any of you have ever taken a picture of a check, a banking check to make a deposit in your bank, that was actually an idea that stemmed from USAA. An employee first introduced that as a concept. And they also introduced biometric authentication using fingerprint or facial or voice prints. So some of the greatest ideas many of us now live with stemmed from these concepts at USAA. Now, to carry that a little bit further, USAA has now become known as one of the world's most admired companies, and they've won that award many, many years in a row. And nearly all, 94% of their 30,000 employees participate in their innovation culture and in their internal innovation community. Talk about an organization that really commits to innovation. They invite nearly every employee across the entire organization to participate, and they do. As I said, the deposit at mobile, the mobile check deposit, was an employee idea here. I also mentioned briefly that they first introduced biometric authentication, like many of you might use your fingerprint to lock your phone. They use that to open up account information to provide access using your biometric authentication to access accounts. So they've opened up innovation not just to their employees, which they're deeply committed to, but they later decided to open it up to members. They think of their insurance clients as members of the USAA community, and they've opened up their internal innovation opportunities to their actual members, so they get early visibility or early access to new features and products and services. It's almost like their members are part of the program and even part of like the beta test. And lastly, this organization was one of the very first insurance companies to use drones to help accelerate the claims process when natural disasters occur. And Cal and I live here in California. We have earthquakes here. We have large wildfires. When these natural disasters occur, the people who are harmed need a fast resolution. Maybe their home has burned down or the earthquake has destroyed their home, made it not livable. So getting to these claims as quickly as possible really can change lives in a very powerful and meaningful way. And USAA took that to heart and decided, let's test this new drone technology to see how we can use it to expedite the claims process. So again, just another idea of a very innovative company living the language of those words. Now, for us, the question is, how do we optimize organizations for innovation? And the real truth of the matter is that successful businesses optimize for productivity, efficiency, and consistency. But successful innovators optimize for randomness, discovery, and chaos. This is a quote from a famous technology writer by the name of Chris Shipley. She is known here in Silicon Valley as one of the most influential women. And she understands that innovation is chaotic. It requires a different mindset than kind of the more traditional businesses. And so I think this quote is something that we who are on the cutting edge of innovation couldn't agree more with if we wanted to. We just fundamentally believe that this is what innovation is all about. And with that, I will invite Cal to come in and share more about how you create that mindset.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. So we talked a lot about the...
May I ask you for this 1 second break, because could we ask all participants to make the joint photo before because some people are leaving, unfortunately, okay. And we need 1 minute only for make the joint photo. And could you stop the sharing? We'll make the photo, and after I would like to ask you to continue. Sorry for interrupting you.
No problem.
And please, all the participants, switch on your microphones, for cameras, not microphones, cameras, and we will make the joint photo. Прошу включить камеры, и мы сделаем совместное фото. Please switch on your cameras. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Thank you very much, and Carl, sorry for interrupting you.
No problem.
We could
All
continue.
Right, back to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, great presentation, and yeah, we could continue.
Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my screen.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Very good. So we talked a lot about the corporation and some of the best practices there. And now we're going to talk more about the individual, and not just the individual's characteristics, but across 7 different key psychological factors that have been scientifically proven to help define and shape a successful innovator. first and foremost is something called perseverance or grit. And it basically means, do you have the long-term drive to stick with the mission, or do you feel like you will give up midway through? It's a humbling reminder that when you think about startups, it's a long journey and there will be many failures along the way. Like Jeff said, there could be chaos, there could be some failures that you need to learn from and adjust and pivot. And with the average time to exit now for a startup north of more than 8 years, you need a lot of perseverance and grit. Another one is something called emotional intelligence, or EQ. Do your emotions help you manage your interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically? You will be with a lot of your co-founders for a very long time, and you need to use that emotional intelligence to help navigate, to resolve disputes, because, during that chaos, sometimes people will not agree, and emotional intelligence is absolutely critical. There's something called visionary pragmatism. And it's basically two different ways that people can think and act about things. Visionaries are dreamers. They're the ones that could see tomorrow and just need to find a way to get to that tomorrow that they're envisioning, to introduce it to the world. That's what an innovator does. But at the same time, you need pragmatic skills. Pragmatic skills means that you think about what needs to get done to accomplish that. The problem is most people aren't strong in both. Some are, but ultimately when you build your team, you need a good, strong balance between visionary and pragmatism. And it also changes over time. During the early planning stages of a company, it can be a lot of fun to just be visionary, but at some point you have to deliver a product, you have to deliver to partners, and those pragmatic skills to translate that vision into actionable things is absolutely key. Up next is something called growth mindset, and we're actually going to spend a lot of time on that in a few minutes. Do you seek out teachable moments to help you grow, or do you have a very rigid way of doing things? Do you think that no matter how old you are or how many things you've already learned, that you can still get better? And a growth mindset is absolutely critical, because no matter what you know now, you're going to have to know even more to take a company on its entire journey out all the way potentially to an IPO or an acquisition. Self-confidence. This one is kind of, seems obvious. Do you believe in yourself? And do you exude and do you communicate your confidence in yourself to other people? Again, things will get tough, and you have to be able to believe in yourself along that journey. Influencer. This is also commonly referred to as just having good sales skills. Do you speak confidently and convincingly? A big part of a startup founder or a CEO is ultimately to share and communicate that vision, and you need to influence people, your customers, your partners, your investors. Every step of the way, people will be assessing your influencer skills. And lastly, I have on here diversity. And diversity, commonly means, that you have people not like yourself. And it could be, race, color, gender, orientation, and so forth. But all of those things are true. And it has actually been scientifically proven that a more diverse board of directors with more representation of people of color and women leads to better outcomes for companies. So it's absolutely the case. But it also goes to even skill set. And we've worked with a number of companies that, at an early stage, you have a brilliant PhD, a scientist, who surrounds himself with even more brilliant scientists. And that is not what is the formula for success for a company. Ultimately, you need somebody that's a good salesperson, a good marketing person, a good engineer. And all of these things ultimately represent a diverse perspective that just when you have your leadership team, that insights will, from these different people, will lead to better outcomes for the company. So we've actually mapped that here. And again, this is not something we've created ourselves. These are all existing studies and analyses that have been done by researchers and PhDs and so forth. And all of them actually have tests that you can sort of gauge, how much perseverance you have, how emotionally intelligent you are. So we actually took their studies and just mapped them on this plot. And this is what you see here is what's considered sort of the optimal, that, for a team, visionary pragmatism needs to be balanced at 50-50. Some of these, when you take the test, you need to score an 80 or an 85. Some expect a score of 70 as a minimum threshold, but that shaded region ultimately represents what we're aspiring to. And so what we did with one of our teams is actually have a team assessment to look at how the team aligns to that. And this was actual data. And you can see from the beginning that influencer skills were a little below what the target was. Perseverance was below where the target was. Emotional intelligence was below. Pragmatic skills was below. And the two good things were that diversity were very strong and growth mindset were strong. And that the most encouraging thing in this was not that we missed the mark on some, but because of that growth mindset, that people believe they can improve their skills, not only for the company, but even for some of these psychological skills that are important to it. And there are even lots of studies, and we're going to share one of them, about how you can develop some of these skills in your mindset over time by going through some of these exercises. So let's double click and spend a little bit more time on growth mindset, because obviously we think it's something that's very important. So again, it actually dovetails very nicely with some of the things that Jeff had described that you need to have at the corporate level, at the company level. You thrive on challenge. You don't see failure as a way to describe yourself, but as a springboard for growth. And I actually want to talk about that. We spend a lot of time talking about our failures over our careers when we talk to young entrepreneurs, because we feel that we learn as much, if not more, from our failures than we do from our successes. And ultimately, because it is a springboard for growth, we know we can develop some of the abilities and some of the weaknesses that we have, and that we have the ability to grow in our intelligence and in our talent. And we fundamentally believe that, and we work with young entrepreneurs to make sure that they are constantly striving to achieve some level of growth all the time. So let's do a quick survey. This is just a challenge. Who can sing within this audience now? If you think about yourself and your singing ability, can you sing? Or actually, more importantly, who can't sing? Who would raise their hand and say, I am so bad at singing that I could never, ever do it, and I'm just not even going to try? So I'm seriously going to ask you guys now to do a very quick, it's just like a 10-second survey. Pull out your phones and scan the QR code, or you can look down here at the URL at the bottom, tinyurl.com/can-you-sing. And I'm just going to give this like, 30 seconds, because I think it should be pretty quick. There's one answer. I mean, basically, there are 4 bullet points. Can you sing? And you're going to say, I cannot sing at all. I'm okay, but I can get better. I'm really good. If I work on it, it can get even better. And then there's a 4th one, which is I can sing, but I can't get better. So just be honest. We're not going to call anybody out. We're not going to ask anybody to sing. I just want to get sort of an overall tally of responses. And please do tell me if you're having any trouble with the survey at all. I'll give it like another 10 seconds or so. We did warn you that this was going to be interactive. Okay. So I am going to update the survey. And so I'm going to go back into presentation mode here. Wow. I cannot sing, nor can I ever learn to carry a note. 42% almost. And 8.3% said, I'm an excellent singer, top of my game, and I cannot get any better. So I don't know if you noticed the pattern here, but about half the people are not coming with a growth mindset when it comes to singing, and about half the people are coming with the growth mindset. So if you said, I'm an okay singer, but I can get better, or I'm really good, but if I work on it, I can get better, that's a growth mindset. So not to make you feel bad, we're not going to call out names, but this is a known music professor at Penn State University in the United States. And she said, everyone who can speak can learn to use the singing voice well enough to sing basic songs. So we're not talking about getting on American Idol, or I don't know if you have American Idol where you live, but one of the big singing shows or the Eurovision. But you can sing and hold a tune, and you can be taught to do it even if you're a terrible singer right now. I'm not going to torture you, but I actually put this to practice this last summer because my wife and I both took singing lessons together just to prove this point. That's how serious I am about the growth mindset. So let's go a little bit deeper now into overall growth mindset scores. This one's going to take a little bit longer. Go ahead and do the exact same thing. You can scan the QR code or look at the URL at the bottom, tinyurl.com/growth-mind. And this one might take you like 2 or 3 minutes. It's just 15 basic questions, multiple choice, one of 5 options that you have. And again, we're not going to embarrass anybody. This is just to get a group mindset for the roughly, I think it's 43 or so people that are here. Just be honest. Sometimes you can kind of guess what answer I want to hear, but just be honest with yourself, because this is just between you and the survey. And the data will be deleted right away after this. For those of you that would like to know your personal growth mindset scores, we will keep it anonymous, but we will send it to you if you give us your email. But like I said, this is anonymous. When we do exercises like this with large groups, we find it's important that we never necessarily call somebody out, but we just kind of find a way to work one-on-one to help cultivate their growth mindsets. And the great thing is, hopefully by the end of this session, all of you believe that you can cultivate your growth mindset. And we'll give you also a little PDF guide that you can read through to think about some exercises that you can do to grow your mindset as it pertains to growth. And so while you're working on that, I'll also quickly comment that the important thing is that there are exercises you can do for all of those the 7 different dimensions that we talked about that ultimately help define a successful entrepreneur. It's something you could work on. Maybe some people might never be completely comfortable with, being an influencer or being a visionary, but there are still things you can do to stimulate your brain, and that's what this is all about. So let's give it another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll look at the results. And like I said, it's all anonymous. Okay, do people feel like they've spent, they still need more time? Yeah, so we will be able to see the number of responses. I think we keep a tally here. And obviously, the more people respond, the more fun it will be for all of us. Okay, let's go ahead. So you can see the sample size right now is 0. We're going to click update, update. So 8 people have responded, and you have given yourself, on average, for the people that responded, an 8 out of 10, which puts the people that responded into the category of a growth mindset powerhouse. And so it kind of makes sense, because the people that come to these kinds of events and talk about innovation are the ones that are interested and focused on it. So congratulations. I think that is an awesome score. And you know what? That could be one of the best scores we've ever seen from a large group. So nice work. I think I just got on my phone. I'm going to hit refresh one more time. Just out of curiosity. We got even better. So 13 responses for up to 8.2. If we keep going all night, we might get up all the way to 9. No, nice job, folks. Okay, so the important reminders here are the differences between a growth versus a fixed mindset. And you can see the growth get all thumbs up here, the fixed gets the thumb down. You know, it's the embracing of challenges, it's the persevering in spite of failure, and really take to heart that a failure has some good sides to it, because you can learn from them. And I think it was Thomas Edison that basically said, when he failed at the first, 10,000 filaments for the light bulb, he learned the 10,000 things that don't work for light bulbs. And it's then the mindset that the intelligence or your skills can be improved. Maybe you will never be a basketball player like Steph Curry, but you can become better at even things like basketball. Being inspired by other successes is also really important, that you're energized when other people succeed, because you draw inspiration from that and energy, and basically motivates you to keep up with those kinds of accomplishments. And lastly, this is also really important, being able to accept and embrace criticism. There are good ways to criticize, and maybe criticism is not the right word. Maybe we should say constructive feedback. But a growth mindset is of somebody that's comfortable to get feedback and then grow from that. And if you did something wrong, that you can grow and learn and fix it. So again, we could share this afterwards as well. We just have this right now. If you want to get your growth mindset guide, you can scan it here, or we'll share it after this session today. It's just a simple one-pager. You can see some of the exercises of what you can do to start working on your mindset growth. And I'll keep it up here for another second or two. The URL down at the bottom is Silicon Valley in your pocket /guide registration. You will register on our site, and then you will have access to this, as well as a host of other documents that are interesting and relevant to startup entrepreneurs. And with that, we will end it, and hopefully we still have time for a little bit of Q&A. And thank you so much for listening, and I always enjoy these sessions, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff, Carl, and now we have we could ask the questions. I would like also, we have, I think, one. Oh, no. Yeah, all of you will have a journey to transform these some challenges into the innovative ideas, and you could continue with transforming this solution to the team and startup. And you have a great chance to ask the questions about this, the presentation, about your future activities. And please, прошу задавать вопросы. У вас есть уникальная возможность. Yeah, I have one small question before the other participants will start asking it. To compare to the initial point, and then you are creating the startup team. Well, what is the most important things the startup should take into the consideration? Maybe one, three most important elements, which is crucial for the startup team at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, just to emphasize how important the team is. And again, we are just students of the startup industry, of venture capital and startup industry. So we study successes and we also study failures. And there's data that shows when startups fail, 80% of the time a startup fails either because of the team or product market fit. So a lot of the work that we do is always very focused on the team and the product market fit. So we only touched on one thing today. It's the psychological makeup plus, well, two things, and then sort of the corporate culture overall. So I would say you need to identify the skills needed and the skills gaps you have in addition to the sort of the psychological makeup. And very importantly, especially at that early stage, co-founders wear a lot of hats is the euphemism we use. They have to do things that are not necessarily in their strengths. So an engineer might have to do a little bit of marketing or operations and so forth. And again, that's where that growth mindset comes in, that they know they're not going to be doing this one particular task forever, but just for the survival of the company, they're going to have to roll up their sleeves and do things they might not necessarily be comfortable with. So I personally think working hard to build a team that has good chemistry, has the right skills as best you can, and then a lot of these psychological factors around growth mindset and perseverance are absolutely key. Jeff, I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
Yeah, I think to your question, Irakli, one of the most important things, and it goes to the same study that Cal is talking about, how team is one of the most important points of failure. When startups fail, a vast majority of them are due to the team. The other one that it's due to is really where my answer will come from, which is the product market fit. Those two things, product market fit and team, account for 80% of startups that fail. 80% fail for those two reasons, one of those two reasons. And I think understanding product market fit requires a team to realize that they don't have the answers, and they need to go and do the proper amount of customer discovery and ask the market about the challenges that the market is experiencing. Go out and do surveys, talk to people, talk to your target customer, and really learn. Don't go in thinking you know what they need. Go in asking them what their needs are. And so doing that customer discovery will help you resolve the the product market fit challenge. And you could really mitigate or reduce the chances of failure if you are humble enough to say, I don't know the answers, but I'm going to go find out what the needs of the market are. And we will make sure that the solution we bring to market in our innovation will fit those needs. And that's where I think those two things, what Cal shared around the team and this part around product market fit, having the humility as a team member to know that we don't have all the answers, but we have the skills to go find out the answers. I think that's a critical part.
Yeah, we have two questions in the chat, and please, you can find it in the chat. The first, it's about how to motivate the startup team members as a founder of startup.
So motivating the startup team member as a founder, I think at some level, motivation for being a startup founder almost has to come from within. There are certainly financial motivations. If you're successful, you could earn a lot of money if your business becomes very successful. So certainly money can be a motivator, but I actually think solving problems and meeting challenges is part of the motivation. There are people, I think engineers by design are there to figure out how to build solutions to challenges. So I think it's kind of inherent in certain careers to be a solution creator or a solver of problems. So I think motivation comes from different things, but I think if your motivation is financial, then you certainly, that can be an okay motivation. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I don't say that in a bad way at all. Money can be a very powerful motivator, but I actually think changing the world or bringing innovation to the world, doing something that satisfies or solves people's challenges can be a huge motivation. Cal and I both do what we do because we love working with founders. Our motivation is working with people like on this call, and Irakli, you've introduced us to so many wonderful founders who are inspired to see change happen and bring that change to the market. Just working with people like that, for example, for Cal and I, is the motivator, being able to be around and surrounding ourselves with that kind of enthusiasm and that energy. So I think that too can be a motivation for a startup team founder. And Cal, anything you would add there? Or you can address the other question.
Well, since we talked earlier about the visionary. And so not everybody in the company will be a visionary, but that visionary has a view into the future of being able to articulate what that future holds. And I think the big mission is, even if you have to have everybody that's on the team get that glimpse into that future, where we're heading, what we're accomplishing, and get them excited about that future that doesn't exist today. And that's one of the energizing things, is once you have everybody kind of together with that view into the future of like, oh, that is such a great future. Now let's go make it happen. That's when magic happens.
We have another question. It's about what feature of the company attracts funding. It's a little bit out of topic, but I think you also could provide some suggestion what attracts the funding in the company. Maybe shortly could provide some.
Sure.
Yeah, Jeff, you got it?
No, fire away. Go first. I'll come in behind.
Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll say some interesting things. To me, ultimately, have you solved a real market problem that a lot of people out there really, really want? And will it be somehow unique and different? I can tell you that we see pitches all the time, and sometimes they start sounding very similar. Oh, another social network site, or something that you see over and over. So it has to be a unique problem solver, have a real value proposition to it. And we like to say, I mean, one of the things we teach in our course is like, you want to get your audience to wow. You have a story that, even if it's one of the most jaded, sophisticated people in Silicon Valley, would they look at that and say, wow? Jeff, what do you think?
Well, one of the things I'll say on our website that I believe the link was shared to for our guide registration, if you sign up for that and you sign up to become a free member, there's no cost to signing up. We have an actual webinar called Maximizing Your Attractiveness Quotient. And the purpose of that webinar, it's about a 1 hour long presentation and discussion on exactly what do investors find attractive in a business. But in a short answer to the question here, you're welcome to go watch that. It costs nothing. You can just sign up for free and watch it at your leisure. But the short answer to the question is investors like large markets. They like big markets. As Cal said, they like solutions to problems. A lot of startups will create something called an MVP. It stands for minimum viable product. And they're often very excited when they say, oh, we built our MVP. Now, we don't believe that building an MVP is exciting to investors, because all that means is you know how to build something. What it doesn't mean is that you know how to build something that anyone cares about and is deriving value from. So we kind of switch the terminology. We call it MVT, minimum viable traction. And it means that you're actually showing traction or showing progress towards delivering the promise of the results, the positive results that your innovation is able to offer to its users. So we would say demonstrating traction is probably the most attractive thing an investor will be interested to see. That will attract funding if you can demonstrate traction. And traction doesn't necessarily mean revenue. That's a good proxy or example of traction, but there are many, many other examples that are short of revenue. There are many other examples of traction. But I think investors want to see that somebody's deriving value from your innovation. And so showing traction is really an answer to getting funding. We always say the fastest path to receiving funding is to demonstrate traction. We tell some founders, stop asking for funding and start asking for traction, because if you show up with traction, funding isn't something you have to ask for. It's just available to you if you're looking, like you're demonstrating good traction. So that would be the most important thing, in my opinion, is demonstrating traction. Somebody want to add a comment here, and please do.
Yeah, Inamli Tekli, please, you also would like to take a word. Yeah, please. Please, Imani.
Hello, all participants. We are here, the International Oil and Gas University students, and I just want to thank you this great presentation and to show my strength and ambition to this project. And I also want to show that we are, as a team, not afraid to participate in this seminar, a workshop, and take some word. Thank you all of you from our university participants, and I think we will participate in CAREC Generator, University Generator, with great innovative solutions, solution project startups. I just want to say this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Inamli, and thanks to all participants, and of course, great thanks to our friends and partners from the Silicon Valley, to the Carl and Jeff for amazing presentation, information and knowledge, which I think help you a lot during your journey and participation.
Yeah.
Please, Inamli. Would like to add something?
Yeah, this workshop, I think I want to say that this workshop is the first the first workshop that I participated in, and it was very helpful. I want to show my emotions and my opinion that the information, the content that you talk about, it was really great, and I hope that this will help us in our future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Namli. And once again, I would like to repeat that the competition which we offering to the universities and students is especially designed to develop your habits of minds and soft skills, the skills how you are going to work in this field. This the skills which is important for entrepreneurs, and only through the practical involvement, or only through the like participating in such kind of activities, you could develop your abilities to become successful entrepreneur. You can learn by reading books to become the good entrepreneur. You should participate, you should act, and you should try to solve such kind of problems and challenges, and finally develop the innovative solutions, which was mentioned. What does it mean, the innovation? And finally continue with startups. We have one more question with Abhishek. Yeah, please, Abhishek.
Hello, everyone, and Jeff and Carol, it was a really good presentation. I had a question about, so as a startup, what is the best, say if you're in the pre-revenue phase, what's the best innovation to focus on? Like, is it sustaining, or should you go for disruptive completely to change the market, or something, keep it simple? What's the innovation we should focus on as a pre-revenue company, or in the seed phase, like when you're just growing, from ideation stage to next stage? So what's the, from basic research to what's the next step in innovation?
Yeah, Abhishek, before trainers, we will answer you. We had a very interesting training. It was the first training about its Gartner research, but maybe you shortly emphasize these elements that we talked. Maybe it will be possible to provide some recording for our participants, and you will be able to listen to this presentation. And please register, and we'll try to send you recordings for this information. Please, Carl, Jeff, maybe you will answer for this question.
Yeah, it's a tough one. That's a very tough
it's
one.
very broad.
Here's what I would say, that ultimately you can't just pick one category or the other. You really have to drill down to what is different about your interpretation of something. That from the last the talk that Irakli talked about, we actually talked about, well, everybody's talking about metaverse now, or they're talking about NFTs, or they're talking about this or that. And we never just want to follow that because it's hype, but these are tools. And how will you implement the tools yourself to do something completely different from the other 100,000 people out there dreaming about something with metaverse or NFTs or something? And it really comes down to you, your vision of the world, the things you can accomplish, and what you bring. What are your strengths? What are your skills? What are your understanding of the problems in the marketplace that you could do something completely different? So I would focus much more on what you can do, how you understand the world, and how you can make something better. Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Looking at I would use the word differentiation, or a competitive differentiator. What can you do differently? Certainly it has to have defensibility is the other piece of it. You have to be able to keep other competitors away. You have to protect your advantage, your competitive advantage. So I would think defensibility and differentiation are things to think about. But if I were looking at a market as an entrepreneur, and I said I want to create a new innovation, I would look at markets that are ripe for being innovated and being disrupted. You used the term in the question, Abhishek, about disruption. I'll give an example. I don't know if many of you have taken Uber, if Uber is popular where you are, but Uber was a company that looked at the way people transported, mostly in taxis. And they said, if you ask any person who's driven or ridden as a passenger in a taxi, do you enjoy it? They would say no, but it gets them from point A to point B. But they didn't enjoy it. And so Uber thought, well, there must be a better way. We can create an enjoyable experience transporting people from point A to point B. And it also gave other people more opportunity to earn some extra income when driving people in Uber. So it was a very ripe industry. The taxi industry was very ripe for innovation and disruption. And Uber was able to, not in the beginning, they started out as a limousine service, had nothing to do with what we might think of Uber today. It was not that company when they started. They pivoted. We used that word very early on in our discussion this evening, or this evening our time, this morning your time. But they pivoted. They learned what the market need was. They looked at a market that was very ripe for innovation, and they ultimately found a very successful path to being able to create something that was differentiated and defensible. They created a massive network of drivers and first mover advantage that gave them ultimately the success they have had as a company. So looking for a market that is really ripe for innovation would be the most important thing to me. And then figuring out what can I create that's differentiated and defensible.
Thank you very much. Once again, I would like to provide shortly information that the registration is going till 1st of February. You can register to become the participant of the competition, and we are planning 2 more trainings with Carl and Jeff during the participation in this in this process. And also we have other interesting sessions and meetings, and please use this opportunity. We already posted the link in the chat. Once again, thank you very much, Jeff, Carl, for incredible presentation. Happy to all of you, the Happy New Year, and wish you all the best to our today participants. And please register to get very, very important knowledge for you and for the better future of all of us. Yeah, thank you very much. And
very good. Thank you all.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Irakli and ADB and CAREC. We are very, very pleased to have been here and look forward to our next session.
Yeah, this training have been organized by ADB and the CAREC. And yeah, thanks for the support, also Korean project, and see you all in the future. Bye.
Bye for now.